Ivy League schools were once considered shining examples of academic integrity and excellence. Well, today those reputations are clearly tarnished. Dr. Carol Swain is an author and former Ivy League professor. She sat down with CBN's Wendy Griffith to talk about the crisis in academia.
Retired professor Dr. Carol Swain, who taught at Princeton, Duke, and Vanderbilt, worries about the future of higher education in America.
I would say today that the ideas associated with Marxism and socialism have seeped into every sector of the university.
On this cold night in Nashville, Swain spoke to the Vanderbilt GOP club about her new book, The Gay Affair, Harvard, Plagiarism, and the Death of Academic Integrity. She began, though, by telling them about her humble upbringing and why the American dream is possible for anyone who puts in the work.
I was one of 12 children, born and raised in rural poverty in southwestern Virginia. We all dropped out of school after completing the 8th grade. I married at age 16, had my first child at age 17, and in my early 20s, I earned a GED, went to a community college, and got the first of 5 degrees. I graduated magna cum laude from Roanoke College while working 40 hours a week, nights and weekends at the community college library. And then I went to Virginia Tech, got a master's in political science, later a PhD in political science. And after I had been a professor at Princeton, tenured, I went back to school and got a law degree from Yale.
A prolific author, Swain's most famous work, Black Faces, Black Interests, asked the question, how well does the U.S. Congress represent African American interests? And it was from this book that former Harvard president Claudine Gay is accused of plagiarizing.
How did that make you feel?
I went through a range of emotions. Maybe, she just accidentally did that, but then I started reading her work and looking for citations and references to my work, and I became disturbed and then very sad because we're both Black women, and I thought it was a bad look for Black women.
On January 2nd, 2024, after only 186 days on the job, Claudine Gay, Harvard's first Black female president, announced her resignation. Swain partially blames DEI policies for Gay's fall.
They fast-tracked her, and so that's part of the problem, but she gave disastrous testimony before Congress, along with 2 other university presidents, about anti-Semitism on campus. And so of the 3, Claudine Gay stood out because she was not willing to really articulate a moral, sensitive policy to the harassment of Jewish students.
You say what happens at Harvard affects the entire world. What do you mean by that?
Everyone wants to be Harvard. If Harvard is lax about its academic integrity and standards, not only will it impact the other institutions, but also K through 12 education. Because the private and public schools, everyone's looking to Harvard for leadership. That's one reason I believe our country is in decline, because the Ivy League institutions, for the most part, are being controlled by people that have clear Marxist leaning as far as their ideology.
Another problem, according to Swain, the often double standard that exists between students and faculty.
Harvard and most institutions, they have strict penalties and guidelines for students when it comes to plagiarism. But if it's an administrator or a faculty member, they kind of back away. If institutions are not willing to police the plagiarism, then the whole academic enterprise, sort of goes down the tube because you're rewarded for the quality of your ideas.
Swain says too many problems, from plagiarism to anti-Semitism, are taking place on college campuses today. And if higher education is going to succeed, she says universities need to clean up their act.
If they are rewarding us because of the quality of our minds and what we produce, then they need to protect intellectual property. As Christian universities, they were founded by people that wanted to promote the Christian worldview of the cause of faith, and they have lost their way.
While Swain misses the classroom and interacting with students, she still believes getting an education is the most important thing a young person can do.
It's so essential if you're going to be a productive citizen for you to have critical thinking skills. So I would like to see colleges and universities go back to being a marketplace for ideas and for them to have diversity of thought. I miss that. But right now, I'm very focused on what I believe God has called me to do. I believe He's given me a platform, and the world is my classroom.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Well, I have a simple solution for this, and that's to go back to a very ancient teaching method. You find it in Socrates. You also find it in the Jewish community. It's called the Talmudic method. And it's essentially a conversation. You have a conversation with your instructor about what you've learned in your course. Oxford does this, Cambridge did it. I had a terrifying experience as an undergraduate where one of the foremost experts in American history, when he announced that his examination, his final examination, was going to be an oral examination, with him personally. So I'm scared to death because I have to have a conversation and I have to prove everything from immediate recall. I don't get the opportunity to sit and think and draft out a response. You have to respond verbally. It's a remarkably effective teaching tool. Law schools still use it and use it with abandon, that every single class you have to stand and give an answer to your professor about what you've learned in the reading for that particular session. It's remarkably effective, and it absolutely eliminates any academic integrity issues because you have to stand and deliver.